Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Donatorium. It's a new year, and we're ready to tackle it. It's another episode of the Fat Minute. I am your host, Don John, and I am here with my co-host, BVJ.
You know, I'm something of a gilder myself.
All right, and just like that, you got fired.
Good.
You're fired. The show is now owned by Disney, which is now owned by Carl's Jr. Fuck you. I'm eating. So tonight we're just riffing tonight, you know. We're just the two of us. We're just kind of goofing off and conversing. I turn that shit off right now.
Yeah, well, I haven't turned my MacBook on in like 4 weeks, so now I'm getting all the messages.
But we're just kind of riffing tonight, looking back on the year that we just left and kind of talking about the year ahead. So, you know, I guess we just kind of start with, you know, what have you been up to since our last show? It's been a couple weeks since we've been on here. We took a little break just to kind of reset the batteries a little bit, recharge, and jump into the year fresh.
I mean, honestly, just work, which I will never disclose on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lady of the night. I have an OnlyFans.
Me too, but it's an OnlyFan. It's not doing too good.
Oh, I was thinking of joining Parler and you know, or as they call it, Only Clans.
Oh shit.
Or OK Stupid.
I like that one.
But yeah, other than, you know, work, my daughter, my wife, and just trying to keep in touch with, you know, everybody else. Not really. And then, like, you know, I've watched a few things here and there, but I figured I'd save that for later, unless you specifically want to do it right now. But I'll go ahead and bounce it back to you.
All right, yeah, I mean, I've been pretty much doing the same thing, working, just trying to live like I've usually been living. You know, it was an interesting year, 2020. I mean, the elephant in the room is COVID, of course. And I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that just because everything that could be said about COVID has already been said a million times by a million different people. But I mean, like, you know, on a personal level, me personally, you know, I'm very thankful that COVID hasn't really directly affected me. You know, I didn't get it. Nobody I know got it. Well, yeah, one person I know got it, but he recovered, thankfully.
Yeah.
You know, nobody I know has, you know, died from it. And I mean, you know, my job, which I will also never disclose on here, but my job, you know, did a very good job of taking care of me, which I am also very thankful for. I mean, in all honesty, and I almost hate to say it because it feels like I'm bragging, and I feel like, you know, it just feels tasteless. But I'm honestly, you know, because of how my job is taking care of me and my coworkers and stuff like that, I'm honestly kind of coming out of the pandemic better than in a better shape than when I entered it. Which again, I'm very thankful and grateful for. But I see how it has affected so many other people in so many disastrous ways, and it was just awful to watch unfold for the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
It was awful to watch the world come to a complete halt and then slowly tear itself apart.
I mean, yeah, it's like what you said. You know, a lot of stuff that can be said has already been said by so many other people, maybe much better. But I mean, in the end, it's just wear the fucking mask.
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame that, like, you know, my sympathies in that respect only extend so far. Like, you know, I feel for I don't want anybody to die or get sick or lose their home or their job or just be negatively impacted in any way. But, you know, when you got people like Herman Cain going on Twitter, holding rallies, telling everybody that the masks don't work or they even, you know, make things worse and shit like that, and then he dies from COVID, I'm not shedding any tears. I'm sorry.
I mean, I feel bad for I can specifically say I feel bad for what, grandkids he has.
Oh yeah,
I forget how old he was, but it's like, the kids, the relatives, the family members that aren't old enough to really be aware of what's going on and the dynamics and politics of everything. Like, you know, his kids, or even his relatives that are, older and closer to his age, like, they should know damn well what's going on, and that
yeah,
that unfolded in a very idiotic way, frankly.
yeah,
But nonetheless, I feel bad for if he did have any grandkids that are just children who it wasn't about, oh, I had a conservative grandfather who tried to champion right wing policies or whatever. Like they were just kids who lost their grandfather. So
right.
I have sympathy for them especially.
Right. And I mean, it's like I said, my sympathies extend so far. Like, his family members, whether they be young or old or whatever, like, I'm sorry that you lost, someone that I'm absolutely sure that you loved. I'm sorry that you lost a loved one. But, I'm not going to beat around the bush. He acted like an idiot and he paid the price.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, it's a shame that so many people who do act like that, you know, just how they, not only hurt themselves but their family members and complete strangers. You see people not wearing the masks, thinking they're championing this, super this super patriotic agenda, and they're total badasses for doing it. And it's like, no, you're putting everyone in fucking danger.
Yeah. I mean, I just, I mean, let's even just go over the last 12 years. We don't have to go back to well, I mean, it's just the 90s, the 80s, it's just like, of all the hills to die on, quite literally, like,
Mm-hmm.
pun intended, I guess. Not a funny one, but still pun intended, like,
Mm-hmm.
all these patriots, and these tough guys, as Joe Biden says, the tough guys or whatever, like,
Right.
all the hills for them to die on. Like, this is so weird to me.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't, I didn't agree with it, but I was always able to follow like what they were trying to say about like, you know, you can't apologize to everybody or you can't tiptoe or, you should just, if you want to tell a joke, just tell the joke and,
Mm-hmm.
just not being overly apologetic and then especially with, they would especially try to champion, no socialism or, America's better than every other country. But like, you know, all those macho man, he-man, dude bro, fights of theirs, of all those, like this is the one they're dying on. And I can't get over that. It's so weird to me. The whole, you can't tell me to wear a mask, you can't live in fear, don't let it run your life, even though
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, I don't want it to end my life.
Yeah.
I can't get over that. It's just once again, like I'm sorry to keep being the record breaking, but of all swords for them to die on, it's that.
Yeah. It's absolutely mind-boggling, and it's like the fact that they don't understand, and or they just blatantly refuse to understand. It's like, by doing this, you aren't just affecting you and only you are affecting everybody you come within close proximity to.
Yeah, I mean, it. I just I don't know if there was some kind of equation or calculation in this where only they got hurt. It's like, well, whatever, like
Yeah.
let them play the game all they want. But it's that they'll affect somebody else who it'll affect somebody else who it'll affect somebody else. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's almost murderous, really.
Yeah.
um but
I mean, ultimately, what do you expect when we had the president that we had, who spent the first several weeks saying that it was a hoax designed to make him look bad. And then, I mean, how long was it before he finally said masks help, and yet he never wore one?
yeah,
I mean, I think I saw him wear one once. Uh,
barely, yeah.
And it's just like, I mean, when you have that kind of leadership,
Made fun of his political opponent for wearing a mask and being like, he's good, he wears the biggest mask. And it's like what Dave Chappelle said, Joe Biden's mask wasn't bigger than anybody else's. I don't know what that was about.
yeah. And it's like the people who criticize the masks and everything else. It's like, you know what? I've been wearing a mask every time I fucking go out during this entire thing. We're almost a year into this. I haven't gotten COVID. Like, so apparently I'm doing something right. You haven't gotten COVID. Apparently you're doing something right. I mean, it's just so ridiculous how these people just they I don't even know how to word it. Like they just make these they do these mental gymnastics to come up with these reasons why they aren't doing it.
It's also like, and Trevor, has brought up this rebuttal to other stuff, and it's like, it's the whole you got to pick one. You can't have both. You gotta settle on one. You got to pick a flavor and chew. They spent years insisting that how China's going to get back at us one day, and and which I'm not agreeing with anything I'm repeating of them or theirs, but one of the worst things I've ever heard them bring up was when the caravans or the I guess like the fear of a caravan but the refugees trying to come to the border, and they tried to suggest that immigrants bring diseases, and they bring rare insects with them that carry rare diseases and sicknesses. It's just like basically just the textbook definition of racism. But then they're trying to be like, well, this is all made up. But then they keep going back and forth. They keep being like, wow, there you go. Like China finally created something to try to bring us to our knees. And then they try to be like it's fake and it's not as big a deal. And it's like, well, which one is it? Like,
Yeah.
Is it their iron fist, their hand of fate that finally smashes us? Or is it just this fucking like smoke and mirror nonsense? Like, you have to pick one. You can't keep saying that they finally have unleashed, a revenge on us, an ultimate weapon that they've been working on forever, but then be like, well, it's not real anyway. It's like, which one is it?
Yeah. And then those same people, how come we didn't go on lockdown for Ebola or SARS or whatever? And it's just like, they weren't the same fucking thing. Like, I don't know how simpler I can put it.
I mean, and that's just something that like should go without saying, because you shouldn't have to explain that different diseases are different in many ways, because that in and of itself is the entire point of there being different diseases and viruses and illnesses. Like, if they all acted the same, then they would just be the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But the move on from COVID, I mean, that's, like I said, that's a horse that's been beat to death by everybody at this point. Just kind of continuing to reflect on the year of 2020. Again, kind of bringing it back to a personal note. I mean, it was an interesting year. Like I said, my job definitely took care of me in that regard. But in terms of what went on in my personal life, it was a bit of a roller coaster 2020, especially at the end. I mean, I started off the year entering a new relationship. My first one since my previous relationship that had lasted for 6 years. Before that, I was in a relationship for nearly 6 years, and then I was single for about a year and a half. Start off 2020 entering a new relationship, like literally at the very beginning of the new year. And I mean, it was a roller coaster the entire way, and it was so slowly. And I mean, you were there for the entire time. It was such a slow and arduous mental and emotional drain that by the end I just couldn't do it anymore. And I'm not going to get too much into detail. I'm just going to say, long story short, something that was a very large obstacle in the relationship that I've never dealt with before in any relationship. Like, I just, I spent so long even bringing it up as a problem because I had never dealt with it and I didn't even know how to address it. And I just felt so awkward addressing it. And it's also just a conversation you never want to have with anybody, telling somebody, that they have something that they need to address and take care of. But then, finally addressing it and it not getting better despite being what I was being told. It was exhausting, and it was kind of heartbreaking in a way because, in the relationship when we worked well, but when we didn't, we really fucking didn't. And I mean, it's a thing I learned from this relationship, because before I started this relationship, when I had ended the previous one before this one, I had told myself, because my relationship that, I had before this one, the one that lasted for 6 years, had told me, taught me, I should say, you need to set standards for yourself and hold yourself accountable in relationships. But this relationship taught me that it's one thing to set standards for yourself, but it's another thing to actually abide by them. You could sit there and say, I'm only going to do this and settle for this, but when the time comes, it's a lot harder than what you would think. Near the end of this, recent relationship, when the problem kept persisting and I kept telling myself, if it happens again, I'm done. I can't keep doing this. And then, I ended up telling myself that like 3 times before I finally ended it, because it would happen again. And I would come up with I would do my own kind of mental gymnastics where I'd come up with reasons why, this time wasn't the same as the last time, so I'll let it slide this time.
Yeah.
Until finally I was just like, yeah, it's not going to get better. I wouldn't call it toxic, but it was on that road. And, I'm like, I need to end it now before it just sinks in, before the claws sink in any deeper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say your story, your own personal, specific story. Just now, that was for you to bring up and only you to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
So I, as far as you in particular, I don't want to pry or fish or dig, because that's just not my place. I ultimately, supported your decision completely. I was, and it's not like, I think you can vouch for me, in front of anyone who will be listening to this, that I try to make a point to be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
and not so much devil's advocate, because that kind of has I guess that kind of has a negative reaction from some people.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to make a point of telling you how I see it from multiple points of view, instead of just telling you what you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, from start to finish, I understood why you were upset, and when you said that you finally did what you did and you were ready to move on and let it go and get over it, and whatever synonym there is for that phrase, I was like, yeah, it makes sense. But speaking on this subject in a general sense, you said that, when it worked, it really worked, and when it didn't, it just really did not. I feel like many people have that relationship. We all go through that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not me saying, your story isn't special or unique, or, it doesn't deserve being heard. It absolutely does. But I'm saying, in a supportive way, a lot of people, they have that story. They witness that, or go through that, or experience that story. And the whole thing of when it's great, and when it's bad, it is bad. That's just what makes it all the more difficult. That's what makes it, heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I guess in the end, that proved that it was worth, I don't want to say experimenting with, but experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
It was what the old saying is, better to have, loved than to have never loved at all, loved and lost or whatever. But,
Yeah.
yeah, everybody has that one relationship that, really just sticks with them for, in many ways, the rest of their lives, but at the very least, the next several years, a decent amount of time. And that echoes into how they better themselves, how they change themselves, maybe not even in a, positive or negative way, but just in a neutral way, an alternative way.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, it sucks, but it is very important to go through. And, we still know a few people that have not experienced anything like it at all. And, maybe they're thinking like, and nobody that's been on this podcast, I'll say that. I don't want any of our other friends listening to be like, oh, motherfuckers, they asked me to come back next week and now they're talking to me like this. Nobody that's been on this podcast, but, I guess they think that they're like, I don't know, they're not cheating the system, but skipping the system, They're like kind of like winning the game by not, falling for the trap. But no, it is a very important thing for everybody to go through. It's just, you have to live. You have to experience life, both
Yeah.
good and bad, up and down, left and right, sideways, inside out, upside down, whatever. But yeah, so yeah, I'll stop myself there.
Yeah, and then kind of like coming off of that, that the whole what happened with me and my relationship these past 12 months. It kind of it reminds me of a conversation you and I have had about how like certain people are just expected to be perfect and okay and put up with everything and be like the guardians and caretakers of everybody else like 100% of the time, all the time.
Yeah,
Like certain people are expected to just never be upset about anything. And
yeah,
like I was getting that so bad in this relationship. Like every time I got upset over, the thing that would happen, I was made to feel like a bad person for being upset about it.
yeah.
Even by my ex's own mother, who legit tried to tell me like, you need to be patient about this. It's like, what do you think I've been doing these past 12 fucking months?
Yeah,
And it's like, I hate the whole thing of like, you kind of see how, I don't know, you may have seen it where it's like somebody who has any sort of problem. And I'm not putting down anybody who has any sort of problem in any regard. Like if you have problems, you have problems. We all have problems. It's the question is whether or not you actively do anything about them.
well, like what I was just saying, it is important to go through problems, like,
Right. It's important to address address problems in a healthy manner. And when you don't do that, things fall apart. But, you may have seen the thing where it's like, so and so like left me. They said they couldn't handle my problems and blah blah blah. And it's like, like apparently the person who couldn't handle your problems is the weak one for not being able to handle your problems. And it's just like, I shouldn't have to handle your problems. Like, and that may sound selfish, but it's like the way I see it is, my good friend, who's also been on this podcast, Tate Griffin, he put it so well for me. He put it in such great words. I cannot give a shit more than you. I can I can care about your problems as much as you, but I can't care about them more than you.
yeah.
Because every amount that I care more than you is slack that I am picking up on your behalf that isn't doing you any good ultimately.
Well, and it was also, how it was said to you, you need to be patient, and that like that was what I was talking about with how, too many people are expected to be the perfect caretakers, the
Mm-hmm.
perfect guardians, and it's like, all right, well, I'm given all this patience, but where's the patience for me?
Yeah.
And it's like, and it is a compliment. It is an honor to be looked at as someone that somebody can count on.
Right.
A lot of the time, but the whole, I can count on you all the time. That is a heavy burden, and you know, we all deserve to be happy, and we all deserve to just get upset from time to time.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like how many bad days are you allowed to have for me to have one bad day? Like why can't I have a bad day once in a while?
Yeah.
Um,
Like it's great if you see me as someone that you can lean on, but am I able to lean on you in return? Like there's got to be some give and take here.
yeah. Yeah.
And in my situation there was not.
Yeah.
But to move on, I guess, to a more positive subject, we'll talk about, how was your Christmas?
Um, it I'll say it was as good as it could have been in
Mm-hmm.
2020, during a pandemic in the time of COVID and quarantines and whatnot. I mean, I my family did not have a big gathering. We
Mm-hmm.
played it smart, like many other people should have, and hopefully many people did. Um, but I guess we'll see the numbers in another week and a half or so. But I mean, so yeah, I mean it was hard not seeing my dad. He was an only child, so my mom was one of seven siblings,
Mm-hmm.
and so Christmas was really my mom's family, and it's just it sucked. I mean, there's no other way to say it. It sucked not being able to see everybody, not being able to be in the same house at the same time, and making the rounds and especially this year of all years, showing my daughter to them
Mm-hmm.
where my daughter's able to walk around and react to stuff and point at stuff and
Mm-hmm.
say a few words. That sucked, but for what it was, I mean, you can't keep looking at the glass half empty, I guess. Not to, there's a lot of cliches in this episode, but I mean, they're cliches for a reason. They work when they work. But it was nice for what it was, for what we did. You know, uh, my daughter has a huge fascination with Christmas trees. Um, so we had like three in our house. Now,
Jesus.
granted, they were different sizes, but there was one big one. So I don't want anybody to think like, "Wow, what are you doing, Blake?" Like, no, I'm not making that fu like
You
big
have a problem.
money. Yeah. So we got like a little one for her room, and then we had like another little one. But and yeah, and my wife, her gift to me was a projector screen and projector. So yeah, it's pretty big. It
Yeah.
goes from what just a couple feet off the floor to basically the ceiling, and it's pretty wide, and the projector's pretty nice. We haven't gotten speakers for it yet because the speaker on it
Mm-hmm.
is that comes out of it is it's good enough.
Yeah.
I don't really have any complaints, but we were thinking of investigating or researching like having one speaker on her side of the bed, one speaker on my side of the bed,
Mm-hmm.
and we got a tripod for it, but it's like a what's the word? It's like a little platform for it. Like when I first looked at it, it looked like one of those things that an orchestra puts their sheets on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's for that, so you can tilt it or have it just right. Because we were trying to put it in front of like the cedar chest in front of the bed, which just wasn't working. But yeah, no, it's a really nice setup. So, what about you, Donnie? What about your Christmas?
Well, first, I still think we need to get that projector of yours, hook up a PS2, and play some Star Wars Battlefront 2.
That'd be pretty good.
I think that would be a fantastic time. I would love to absolutely roast your ass at Galactic Conquest once again.
I think if anything, my projector's destiny is to show everyone in our group of friends Manos the hands of fate.
Abso-fucking-lutely. I would straight up buy all the pizza for us if we did that.
My wife, after the first 5 minutes of the movie, will never want to watch anything with me ever again.
Oh,
So
you showed her Manos?
no, but I just know she'll hate it.
Oh. Well, you should show it to her anyway.
No. She's she's not one of those, oh, it's so bad it's good. She'll just be like, oh wow, you're watching something that's bad.
I mean, I don't think it's so bad that it's good. I think it's a steaming pile of dog shit, but it's still fun to watch with your buddies.
I will say it is, yeah, it's not like The Room. Like it goes past so bad it's good, and it just comes back to being bad again.
Yeah.
So
But as for my Christmas, I didn't have a single Christmas tree. I did not decorate at all. It's just not something that's a big concern of mine, decorating for the holidays and all that. I had a Christmas tree, but I gave it to my ex for her and her roommate to put up in their house. They also had 3 Christmas trees for some fucking reason. And unfortunately, we broke up and I didn't get the tree back. And I'm not that concerned about it. I'll just buy another one if I really want one. But yeah, I didn't decorate. I didn't see anybody. I mean, I essentially have no family. Throwing some beans out there. I essentially have no family, and I mean, pretty much all my friends were doing what you were doing, just staying away from other people. So I didn't see anybody, but I did really appreciate the 4K Blu-ray of the final cut of Apocalypse Now that you sent me, which I've watched the theatrical and the Redux versions. I plan on finally watching the final cut, hopefully tomorrow.
mm-hmm.
But I do appreciate that. I'm a big Francis Ford Coppola fan, and I've never seen Apocalypse Now, so it was nice to finally watch that movie.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. Yeah, it's funny. You basically did what I did in 2007
Mm-hmm.
with Blade Runner, the final cut. I watched the theatrical, the international, the director's cut, and then finally the final cut.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I did that, but especially with the first 2 cuts, because the first 2 cuts have this infamous Harrison Ford narration, and it is horrible. Harrison Ford has never given a shit about anything in his life, and that narration was yet another thing he didn't give a shit about. But yeah, no, you basically did that. I'm not going to do that with Apocalypse Now. So when it comes time for me to experience it at all, just once, I'm just going to skip to the final cut.
Yeah. I mean, so far, like I said, I've watched theatrical and I've watched the Redux version. It's in regards to which one of those two is better. It's a toss up. I mean, because Redux is like 45 fucking minutes longer. It's almost 3.5 fucking hours. It's a long fucking movie.
Yeah.
But you don't really feel the added length because it just flows so much better and it has more room to breathe. But there is one glaring segment in the Redux cut that it like makes you feel that extra 45 minutes all at once.
Yeah.
And it's just really not needed. But I'm looking forward to watching the final cut version.
That was basically my point with Batman versus Superman Ultimate Edition. Like, it's a half hour longer, but it flows much better, and it has just superior pacing to where, like, even if you feel the added length, you don't mind it as much. I mean, obviously, Batman versus Superman will be a whole other episode in and of itself. So, honestly, if you already didn't like that movie, you're not going to like the Ultimate Edition. But if you were open to it, like, the Ultimate Edition is better.
Yeah, and also in the chat right now, my boss is actually in the chat right now. She mentioned that she brought me truffles for Christmas and got to harass my dog. And you know what? Those truffles, Erica, were fucking amazing. I ate all 6 of them about 5 minutes after you left. Because I'm a fat ass.
It's actually hilarious how life, I guess, echoes and rhymes with itself. Because if it's your boss that I'm thinking of, and you brought that up right after I brought up Batman versus Superman, the first time I saw that movie, her husband was in the row right in front of me. Yeah, and it was a private showing. It was only like the theater employees and he and his brother were included in like the friends of the other manager at the time that was hosting it. But yeah, that's kind of funny. So
Oh, neat.
yeah, yeah, as John Oliver would say, cool.
So you got any anything else you've been up to lately? Like anything you've been like watching, movies, TV, anything like that?
Well, so I wanted to watch something on the projector that I wanted to watch a movie, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight we watched the first episode of The Righteous Gemstones, which was I don't know if you remember the trailer for it, but it was a comedy on HBO, not last year, but I guess to the 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And it was where John Goodman is basically like the Joel Osteen of his universe. Like he is like a televangelist, and he has a mega church, and his two sons are Danny McBride and Adam Devine,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just very tight ass, money grabbing, hypocritical, phony religious people that preach on TV. And I thought it was just going to be funny all the way through, but like the ending scene is like it is very much a when keeping it real goes wrong. So we're definitely going to be watching more of that. I hope. I mean, I want to at least. I think my wife laughed. I don't. Yeah, she laughed quite a few times at it. And it's just all the jokes in it, all the little stuff you got to pick up. Like on their fence in a big sign to their compound that has like 5 houses in it. It says, "Blessed are the poor, for they shall inherit the kingdom of heaven. Please no trespassing." It's so good. I got
That sounds like some shit from Black Jesus. Remember that
yeah.
show?
I will never forget it because, and I finally watched the first few episodes. It was okay for what it was. For me, when I was watching the trailer, I was crying laughing at just the fact that it was a real show that was going to exist. Like
What,
I was,
Black Jesus?
yeah, I was just laughing at the existence of that show.
Yeah.
It's just like, and I was saying that to all your friends. I believe I said it to like Devin and Robert and Michael, and I was just like, for me, like you just when you watch that trailer, you're like, this is going to be a real show. Like, what is going on? But yeah, I mean, I got to show it to my mom because my mom will. I mean, she rips those kind of people in real life. So she'll love that. The Righteous Gemstones. I don't know if my mom would be. I don't know if my mom would be like Jesus. Not that she would be against the idea, and she does believe Jesus was black. But
He sure as shit didn't look like Kenny G.
yeah, she is aware that he did have darker skin, but I don't know if the humor itself would be her flavor. But the gemstones, yeah, that like she would think that's hilarious. But then so yeah, back to I wanted to watch a movie on the projector, and last night I was like, okay, well, I have my list of favorite movies. My wife has her list of favorite movies, and I'm like, no, I want to watch something I haven't seen before. And she did see this movie before, several months ago on HBO, but we watched the movie Ready or Not, which is kind of like an interesting take, even a twisted take, really, on the home invasion subgenre.
Mm-hmm.
And it is about a bride who on her wedding night she finds out that she got married into a family that has a tradition, and there's more lore to it all than just this, but I don't want to spoil it for anyone else listening in. But nothing more than what was in the trailer. She finds out that her in-laws have this tradition where they have to play a game the midnight of a wedding day in their family.
Mm-hmm.
And when you pull the card that's hide and seek, they actually have to kill you, and for reasons more elaborated upon in the story, they basically have to sacrifice you because that is the tradition in their family. And it is it's a wild movie, and it's just like I will say, like, when it ended, when it was over, I was like, well, I guess that was one way they could have closed the curtain. But yeah, it's the main actress in it, Samara Weaving. She was also in Netflix's The Babysitter, and I guess she was one of the daughters in the new Bill and Ted movie. She's really good. I like her a lot. She basically looks like if Margot Robbie had a sister,
Huh.
and yeah, it's kind of like Margot Robbie and Samara Weaving and Jamie Presley. Like they all look like they're long lost sisters. But no, I like her a lot, and it was definitely an interesting movie. But it's dark. It's a little dark, and I feel like 10 years ago I wouldn't have been into it at all. But I was like, ah, whatever. It's movie's a movie. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. And then as far as anything else, no, no, I haven't really been watching much of anything. What about you?
I caught up on this season of The Simpsons. I kind of let that go for a couple weeks, more than a couple weeks, several weeks. So I finally caught up on all that, and I gotta say, ever since Disney took over, The Simpsons, in my opinion, has steadily been getting better. They're not quite where they were back in the golden age of the show, but they're making an upward trend back towards that, in my opinion.
Hmm.
I'm starting to see a lot of stuff in the show now that, like, in terms of like the sense of humor and the setup and all that and the format of the show, I'm starting to see traces of the older episodes in the new modern seasons post Disney, which is nice. I think it's just because Disney just actually appreciates The Simpsons, whereas Fox didn't. I mean, if anything, Fox outright like basically made it a vendetta for the longest time, for the better part of 20 years, to like they wanted to get rid of the show.
Hmm.
I mean, they stifled the show in terms of like censorship and stuff like that, hardcore. I mean, I have every season that they've ever released on Blu-ray. I have, and DVD. They released like the first 20 seasons on DVD, and I have all of them. And I've watched all episodes on them with commentary, and just hearing about like just hearing the writers and Matt Groening and all of them just talk about like how Fox has fucked with them over the years. It's just like, if you guys hate the show so bad, just give it to another fucking network. Like,
Hmm.
talk about biting the hand that feeds you. I can only imagine how much money that Fox has made off The Simpsons over the years. But it seems like Disney appreciates the show a lot more, and they appreciate having the brand under their umbrella, which, I don't like that Disney owns like 75% of all media, but it's nice to have The Simpsons, which is my favorite show of all time. It's nice to have them in a place where they're appreciated again. Um,
You know, I guess it wouldn't have made sense. It wouldn't make sense for them to own something popular and then not do anything with it.
yeah,
Um, so it's like, of course Disney is like, oh, well, people still like The Simpsons, so let's just actually give a shit about The Simpsons.
yeah,
Um, and I mean, like, it's just kind of weird how in a couple years it will have already been a decade since Disney bought Lucasfilm.
mm-hmm,
And they did. I mean, I guess there were so many other factors. I guess with either Steven Spielberg or writers or even Harrison Ford himself. But it's like I can't help but get this sense that like Disney was not determined enough to make another Indiana Jones. It was all about Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars. And I do understand that ultimately, overall, like Star Wars, is billions of dollars, and it has made more than the Indiana Jones trilogy, I guess now quadrilogy.
mm-hmm.
But it's like, I mean, it got to a certain point where it's like, hey, Disney, like, when you bought Lucasfilm, you also got something else that was popular, right? Like, you don't just own Star Wars now. But I don't know.
I don't know.
What?
I've only ever seen the first Indiana Jones movie, so maybe I'm not the best person to comment on that. But I don't know. I feel like there could never be another Indiana Jones movie for the rest of time, and people would not be too upset about it overall.
I mean, I guess like now it is too late for them to introduce the concept of different actors because that would have been like if they waited, 40, 50 years after Goldfinger to make another James Bond movie. It's just like, no, Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones. You can't really bring other actors into it. So I feel like the window for that passed, but I don't know. I guess it's one of those things where I don't really know what I want anymore. I just know that, like, I like the character. I love the first film, the third film, and I even like the fourth film. And I don't know. I mean, if they ever make another one, I'll show up. I'll be there. I'll buy a ticket. But whatever.
Yeah. But back to, stuff I've been doing, watching. I've been meaning to. I still haven't watched any of season 2 of The Mandalorian. I've been meaning to. The only reason I didn't is because my ex and I were gonna wait until the entire series was out there, and then we were gonna binge watch it, and then we broke up, and I just haven't gotten around to watching it yet. But I do plan to soon. There's nothing really on Netflix that I feel like watching right now. I'm definitely looking forward to the Marvel shows coming up, especially What If. Like, I think that's gonna be fucking awesome. Looking forward to WandaVision. That looks cool. I finally got around to playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order on the PS4. It's not a bad game, but I didn't love it as much as I thought I was going to. It's a cool game. It's a good story, but it plays. It's basically a Star Wars version of a Dark Souls game, which is good and bad. It makes it too niche in terms of people who will enjoy it. There were just a lot of moments in the game where I just got really fucking frustrated for no reason. And I caught up on a lot of comic books I've had sitting around. I recently started reading King in Black, which is the big Marvel crossover event going on right now, where the king of the symbiotes is back and he's causing all kinds of shit, and it's fucking awesome. I love what they've done with the character of Venom in Marvel Comics. Like, they've really managed to, in the past couple of years, make him more of his own standalone character without diminishing the connection to Spider-Man, which is really awesome. And I also just today finished reading Batman 3 Jokers, which, woof, I fucking highly recommend that, especially for the ending. Holy shit.
Really?
Yeah.
How is it? Just one graphic novel, one trade, or how is it?
I'm sure they'll put out like one single trade here in the near future, but it's 3 different books.
Okay.
Do you want me to tell you the ending?
No. I mean, do you own it?
I have issues 1 and 3. I need to grab. I read 2, but I don't own it. I need to grab it.
Okay.
But I can let you borrow it. Yeah.
Yeah. Or I'll look into it in the future. But also, I wouldn't want you to. Is it somewhat new?
Oh yeah, like the 3rd issue just came out like a couple months ago.
Okay, yeah. Maybe don't spoil it just yet.
Okay.
Anyone listening in.
Yeah.
But
it's basically a sequel to The Killing Joke. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, okay. No, that sounds pretty good then. I mean, The Killing Joke is very revered. But
Yeah.
I mean, you brought up books. I still need to catch up on what I've owned for years. I mean, like, over the past like several years, I just like stocked up on a bunch of Superman books.
Mm-hmm.
And while I've read like many of them, I still need to read a lot of them. And also even reread some. Like I did like the first 2 books of Earth 1,
Mm-hmm.
but then I never did the 3rd book, so I may as well just start all over so it's all fresh. I will say that I was at Barnes and Noble the other day. Yeah, it was just a zip trip. It was in and out. But
Mm-hmm.
while I was walking out, I happened to notice that they had like a couple other Superman books that I don't have yet. And I gotta say, I love Superman, and I wish more people would give Superman books a chance. But I'll be the first to say, there's too many Superman stories that just retell his origin.
Yeah.
And there needs to be more Superman stories where it's just a standalone story and it starts off with him being Superman. And it doesn't have to like remind you of like where he came from, what he did, and it's just like, just first page, he's already, and that's why I love All-Star Superman so much. It's just, from the beginning. I mean, it does like a quick like, flashback, I guess, but it's just like, no, ultimately, it's just he's been Superman for several years. He's established. Everybody knows him.
Hmm.
Just go from there. Because yeah, it's just like every time we turn around, we're being reintroduced to him, and and people roll their eyes at like, oh, Man of Steel was a Superman reboot that had to retell his origin. Like, Superman's origin was on the big screen since 1978. Like, we live in a world where we were reintroduced to Spider-Man twice within a decade. Like,
Yeah.
I think we can calm down with that. But like, if they were talking about the comics, I totally like can't fault them for that, because it's just like there's Secret Origin, there's Birthright, there's it's just a lot of stuff. Earth One. Um, but yeah, and then you were bringing up WandaVision and What If. I think those two shows are cool. I think like probably WandaVision just looks so weird. Like, it looks like a Twilight Zone episode
Hmm.
almost. But it's just like, I don't know where they're gonna go with that. And I think What If is maybe the coolest idea of all the Marvel shows coming out, because just like an anthology of like, well, obviously the title, What If This Happened, What If
Yeah.
That
I
Happened.
mean, I've always loved the What If comics, so to see a show of it, that's just cool.
And I think like the Falcon and Winter Soldier show looks the most basic. I'm sure it'll be good, but it just doesn't seem like the most like different.
Yeah.
And then I think the Loki show looks cool. It just kind of looks like a more twisted Doctor Who inspired show.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that show's just gonna be fucking wild.
yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, even Owen Wilson's there.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and then we can't forget, at least I can't forget, this year it's finally happening. After over 3 years, they did it. We're going to get, they are going to release the Snyder Cut. Um, and I'm very excited for that. I like Zack Snyder. I think Zack Snyder is cool. I know that's not a cool thing to say on the internet with some people, but like, even when his method and his theory, you know, isn't ultimately popular, I guess, with mainstream or casual people, I still respect, um, I don't know, just him doing what he wanted to do.
Now,
But yeah,
what would you do if the Snyder cut ends up being worse?
it 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 logistically cannot be worse. I mean,
I mean, I still haven't seen the Justice League movie, so I can't confirm or deny that.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. The Justice League movie is not a bad movie. Like, and I'm sorry. Like, I know the Snyder stands will be like, "Well, this guy's dead to me already." But and especially on Twitter, like those people, they can get mean. But and it's just also they just live in this bubble where it's like they're the right ones that are able to see the truth, and everybody is blind to the fact that those movies were perfect masterpieces. Like, those movies were flawed. I mean, they had their choices. They are in. It's still deserving of their own critiques. I still think I still think Batman versus Superman is a very interesting movie, and whatever. I'm not going to get too stuck on that. But the Justice League movie, there was a Slash Film article that summed it up best. It is still a enjoyable and entertaining film. We have just become too spoiled and entitled to deserve to enjoy it. But I mean, like, it's just a 2 hour like open and shut fun movie. And I mean, they kind of tease like a future with the sensibilities in the theatrical cut. And it ends with like, Superman and the Flash like betting on a race and them seeing who will win the race. Like, if I win, this happens. If you win, this will happen. And then, like, it's fun in a way, but like ultimately you still have a very disjointed movie, and it's a movie that doesn't really know what it wants to be, because you can still see like a Zack Snyder skeleton in there, but it has like all this like chunky flesh of Joss Whedon, and it just ultimately, like, you can just tell it isn't pure. It isn't true to itself. So for that reason, the Snyder Cut can't be worse because you will at least get an experience that is still being pure and true to itself. Um, and also, like, people are arguing like it's not going to be that much different. Guys, it's twice the runtime. Like, it has to be different. Like, it is going to be 4 hours long. You can't just add 2 hours to a movie and be like, there wasn't that many differences. Like, Brad said that to me. It's like, okay, dude, but is it really going to be that different? Brad, it's 120 minutes longer. What are you talking about?
Well, God love Brad, but he's not exactly known for noticing nuances.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
like I said, I still haven't seen the Justice League movie. I'm just not that much of a DC fan, and just overall, the DC cinematic universe has not done it for me. I mean, the more time it's gone on, the more I've grown to love Man of Steel. I think Man of Steel is, in my opinion, the best Superman movie ever. And that's a hill I'll die on. People very much look at the Richard Donner, Christopher Reeve movies with heavily tinted rose-colored glasses. And, Batman versus Superman, I've only seen it once in theaters. I thought it was okay. I thought there was a lot that it did right. I think there's a lot of stuff that people give it shit for that was actually good. But then there was a lot of stuff that I just felt like that I didn't think was good at all. I think also Batman versus Superman overall, basically, because Man of Steel has this whole idea of like, because a lot of people criticize Man of Steel about like how Superman doesn't act like Superman. I'm like, well, that's the fucking point. He's, only been doing it for a fucking day.
Yeah.
But then, Batman versus Superman didn't capitalize on that at all, and in some ways even took several steps backwards, in my opinion. And then Wonder Woman was good. I mean, if there was ever a movie they needed to get right, it was that one.
Yeah.
But even Wonder Woman is super formulaic. I haven't seen Aquaman just because I saw the trailer, and it straight up made me laugh at how fucking awful it looked.
Aquaman's a fun time though. Like, honestly, if you're willing to see Manos in the Hands of Fate a second time, you should be willing to see Aquaman a first time.
The difference is Manos: The Hands of Fate is like less than an hour long.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just remember seeing what's his name, Black Manta in Aquaman. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing the trailer and seeing Black Manta shoot those laser beams out of his eye, and I just immediately fucking laughed in the middle of the theater where that trailer was showing, because he looked like a fucking Scooby-Doo villain.
Yeah, he kind of does.
And I think Aquaman's just a stupid fucking character to begin with. I also look forward to the day when Marvel finally makes a Submariner movie and people go, oh, look, Marvel's copying DC's Aquaman. And it's like, fun fact, Submariner's been around longer. I still haven't seen Shazam. I've been meaning to. I just haven't gotten around to it. But Shazam just looks like it's just a really fucking fun movie.
I don't want to oversell it to you because I have a history of overhyping movies to people.
Mm-hmm.
But I love Shazam. Like, Shazam, it's just a fun movie. Like, you just said it. But it's like, of all the DC movies in the last like decade, Shazam has the most heart. Like, it is a pure of heart, heartwarming movie,
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. And they got the perfect guy to play that character. When it was just like, Shazam is basically this kid who becomes a superhero, but he still has the mind and personality of a kid. Like, they cast the perfect dude for that, and he nailed it. But no, I adore that movie. And like, once again, I don't want to oversell it, but of all the DC movies, if you literally dislike Shazam, I will legitimately be bummed out.
What's the name of the actor that got to play Shazam again?
It is Zachary Levi.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was in a few episodes of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which I binged watched this previous year. It's on Amazon. I fucking love that show. It's a fucking hilarious show. If you got Amazon, I recommend watching that show. There's like 3 seasons, and the fourth one's on the way. Hopefully soon, once this COVID stuff clears up.
Yeah.
It's a fucking hilarious show.
I
And also, as because it's about a housewife from the late 50s, early 60s who starts a career in stand up. And also as a fellow housewife from the late 50s who's pursuing a career in stand up, I relate to the show a lot.
yeah, I just love how how my first impression, not even really an impression, a first assumption I had was just so wrong because I needed to watch the trailer, and when I watched the trailer, I'm like, okay, no, I see what you mean now.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you first brought it up to me, I don't know why, but I had only seen like microseconds of it, nanoseconds really, and just like micro snippets. But when you first said, oh yeah, I've been watching The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and I really like it a lot, I thought you were watching like a Downton Abbey type show. And I was just like, what are you, like an old British, like, divorced mother? Like,
No, I'm a housewife from the late 50s. Weren't you listening?
Yeah, true. But then I was just like, I watched the trailer for it, and I'm like, oh, okay, like, she's saying the F word.
Yeah, she says it a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a funny show, and again, like as someone who is also pursuing a career in stand up, there's a lot of stuff in it that I relate to on a personal level, so it has that extra layer for me.
Yeah. No, I'll check it out eventually. I'm sure it's funny.
It's great. Trying to think of what else I've been doing lately. I binge watched all 3 seasons of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Oh, how was that?
It's good. I like it. Like at first I thought it was going to be kind of edgelordy because it's like, oh, it's Sabrina, the teenage witch, but there's Satanists and all that. But like, no, it's actually really good.
It apparently is meant to take place in the same universe as Riverdale.
Yeah.
Have you watched any of Riverdale?
No, but I heard it gets really fucking shitty after the first season.
Yeah, like the first season's solid, like for what they're, and I mean, like, you have to, once you accept the immediate initial premise of the show where it's like, oh, it's Archie and friends, Archie and Jughead, but it's like dramatic and serious. Like, once you get over that premise, the first season's solid. Like, it's like, okay, all right, I dig it. I can dig it. And I didn't finish. I only got maybe like 1/4 of the way through the second season, but my wife kept watching it, and I think she watched the following few seasons after that. And she said, first of all, she said the second season, it got to a point where they just should have ended it, but it just kept going. And it was like, why are you still going on? Mm-hmm. And then as far as like, not as in like the show should have been canceled, but like the season should have wrapped up, like the arc was completed in a way, I guess she was trying to say. Mm-hmm. But then she said like the seasons after that, it becomes a ridiculous parody of itself to the point where it's like, this is hot garbage, but I can't look away. like a train wreck. Like, there's just apparently like there's a segment where they do a musical, like, a musical within the universe rendition of Jailhouse Rock, and it's like peak cringe. And it's just like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what the other stuff she told me escapes me, but she was describing some other plot points and character arcs and development, I guess you can call it. And I was just like, there is no way a room full of producers okayed that. Like, that sounds like the dumbest shit ever. But, yeah, no, apparently Riverdale just gets really edgy and cringy.
Yeah, I was worried that Sabrina was going to be like that, but it's really good. I like it. I know Netflix announced recently the next season's going to be the last one, so I'm going to be interested to see that.
Yeah, but I respect that. I respect that where it's like, no, like we're ending it where we want to end it. Like, we're not going to just keep going for the sake of going.
Yeah.
which that's what Damon Lindelof did with HBO's Watchmen. He was like, no, like I only had one season in me, like in and out, open and shut, done.
Yeah,
And
I tried watching the HBO Watchmen. I got like 2 episodes in, and I just couldn't get into it.
oh, you didn't tell me that before.
Oh well, there you go.
Oh, God,
I mean,
Don.
I'm just not into the Watchmen brand in general.
I mean, I don't want to oversell something, but I cannot stress to you enough that, like, and I know you can have your comebacks and rebuttals to this, but like by the third or fourth episode, you start to be like, oh, this is what it was doing. This is where it was going. Like, no, it finally reaches a point where it gets so good. And the first episode is overhyped. Like, people are calling it one of the best pilot episodes ever. Like, I mean, it's not bad.
It's not
But
bad,
like,
but it's not that level.
when I saw the first two episodes, specifically the first, and like I'm agreeing with you this far. When I first saw the first two episodes, I'm like, where are they going with this? Like, where is this even going?
Yeah.
But no, like three, it's like, okay, all right. And then by four, like by the fourth, I remember the fourth, like, and it's 9 episodes, and it's like, no, you are doing a disservice to yourself. You are missing out, because then five is even greater, and then it keeps getting better and better. And well, for the most part, it's getting better and better. I will say personally, the sixth episode, the black and white flashback episode, that is one of the best episodes I have ever seen of anything ever. Like, it's almost like a short film, and it's amazing. I can't twist your arm, really, I guess, but like I highly recommend that you give it another chance and pick it back up eventually. So
Maybe I will one day.
yeah,
Um,
but but no, we were talking about Sabrina knowing when to end. Like, I respect that.
yeah.
Don't drag it out.
Am I the
Uh,
only one who doesn't fucking care about Stranger Things at all anymore?
I
Like, I was just thinking about this before we did the show because I saw something about Stranger Things. I was just like, it took me, like, I didn't see the first season until, like, it had already been out for quite a while. And I watched it, I was like, damn, that was good. And then I saw season two, and I was like, that was, I liked season two more. And then I saw season three, and I was like, it was good, but for some reason, I just like this show. I've seen 3 seasons of this show, and honestly, I still can't fucking tell you what the hell is going on in this show.
um and first of all, one more thing, because I don't feel like coming back to it later. They're apparently coming out with like an edgy, like, Hardy Boys series. Um, so and no, it's not going to be the South Park
Oh,
Luther.
I'm getting a clue.
Oh, not the goddamn Hardling Boys. Um, but yeah, so it's like, and there's a Jimmy Fallon skit, and first of all, I don't think Jimmy Fallon is that hilarious, but there's a Jimmy Fallon skit where it's like Charlie Brown Peanuts, but it's edgy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, okay, this is a good. But anyway, Stranger Things, the first season is great. I mean, there's a reason why it became as popular as it did. Like, it's
Yeah.
in the age of like, and I think Mr. Plinkett, or the Red Letter Media, like when that character that did the Star Wars prequels, he then reviewed the 2009 J.J. Abrams Star Trek, and he illustrated a really good point of how difficult it is to be popular right now, because you have so many things competing with each other. Like, you have, well, before the pandemic, you had theatrical movies, you have streaming services, you have video games. Like, video games are the storytelling of video games right now are on a path to rivaling films.
Mm-hmm.
Is what people feel, and I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt had a piece where he expressed that sentiment. But like, bravo to Stranger Things for becoming as big as it did, because right now, like, it is hard to become that popular.
Yeah.
Like, you have to scream at the top of your lungs until your lungs and throat burst to be heard right now. And yeah, I mean, it became popular for a reason. And as much as I love the first season, well, no, I love the first season. I was accidentally going in a different direction with that. I love the first season, and it got better. Like the first, and I actually have a great story to tell about when my one buddy Michael, not Michael that was on the show, but another one, when he watched the first season. But first season got better and better. The second season, I didn't. I mean, like I didn't dislike it, but I didn't really give a damn until the final episode. And it's just like episodes 2 through. I mean, if there's 10 episodes, it's like episodes like 2 through 9 were filler. Like you really like they introduced it, and then you just had to wait for the last episode. So in my opinion, I don't know if I still prefer the first season the most, but I personally think the third season is the best sequel season. Like 3 is better than 2 in my opinion. In my opinion, but no, a great story with my one buddy who's also named Mike. He everybody kept recommending to him 2 shows, which was Black Mirror, and obviously you know what Black Mirror is, I believe.
I know of it. I've never watched it.
It's but it's like basically a modern millennial like Twilight Zone,
Yeah.
like, that deals with tech. But the point is it's an anthology series,
Yeah.
and everybody kept everybody kept suggesting to him Black Mirror and Stranger Things, and it kept going back and forth. Black Mirror, Stranger Things, Black Mirror. Eventually, he got the 2 mixed up, and he started the first episode of Stranger Things thinking that it was the anthology.
How when the
And no, but he's watching the whole first episode, and it's like the last 10 minutes, the last 5 minutes, and he's like looking at the clock, being like, "How the hell are they going to wrap this thing up?" And it's such a wholesome story, like of being confused. I absolutely love it. Like I love that story so much. But it's just like, and then the second episode starts and he goes, "Oh, this is the arc. This is the story." I didn't watch the anthology, but like I just love him like illustrating himself, like looking at his watch, being like, "How are they going to solve this mystery in 5 minutes?" Like,
it was Old Man Jenkins.
yeah, but no, I mean, what I will say about Stranger Things is like, I was like, okay, like from the first season, I'm like, please make a second one, please make a sequel, please make another one. And I was like, they at least got to make one follow-up to that. Like, it was so good. It was so good. I just don't want it to be a one and done, even though one and dones like are perhaps the smarter route. It's like, don't force it. Like, just accept that you made something that was good and it ended. But I was like, make one more. Please make another. And I was like, okay. Now they got to do a trilogy. They got to make it a trilogy at least. But I think at this point, like, they have to wrap it up. Like, I'm sorry, like, there's only so much shit that can happen to the same people from the same town over and over again. Like, I'm sorry. And I understand, like, I just contradicted, like,
every TV show ever.
Yeah, and, like, cinematic universes and, like, comic universes and whatever. But I think with Stranger Things, it's like, listen, they either close the gate to that alternate dimension and defeat the evil, or they fucking don't do it at all. Like, it's just like they're taking up the whole decade of the 80s here. Like Bill Clinton's about to be erected. Oh my God.
Yeah, he is.
Oh my God. Well, true. I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. But anyway, Bill Clinton is about to be elected, and they still haven't solved any of the mysteries, really. Like, all they know is there's a mirror universe that's bad, and that's really all they're getting. And the Russians keep dicking around with it.
Yeah.
Um,
It's always the Russians.
But it's, yeah. Yeah, well, we believe it's the Russians in, like, entertainment, but then when you try to tell people, hey, they're, like, doing some dirty shit in real life, it's like, I don't know. But I don't know why I turned every Republican senator into Brad. But anyway. Now it's just like, and I'm sorry, I don't want to see these kids when they're too old. Like they have to end it at just the right time, and maybe the right time has already passed, but they have to end it at the next right time.
I mean, the creators of the show said they plan on ending it after like 4 or 5 seasons. So
honestly, I'm surprised they're doing a 4th, because throughout 3, I'm like, okay, they're really gonna wrap this up this time. But it's like, okay, they can't just leave it like that. But I think doing a fifth one is a big mistake. Like, I think they're milking it now. I think they're dragging it out. They're milking it. They're stretching it. Like, whatever. It's just and again, I don't want to. These kids are going to lose their charm. I'm sorry. There's no other way to say it. Like, Dustin's going to be a weird 21-year-old. I mean, I'm still taking bets on out of the four main boys in the first, throughout the series. Yeah, there's four of them, right? Or is there five?
There's 4.
Am I? There's four. There's four. I'm trying to calculate like which one, since they're big Ghostbusters fans and they all dressed up as Ghostbusters for Halloween. I'm like, okay, there's four of them. One of them's going to grow up to be one of those fans that fucking hated women. And complained about the 2016 movie. I'm just trying to figure out if it's going to be Mike or Dustin. Like, one of them's going to hate women.
Jesus Christ.
I'm being honest. Like, whatever.
Well, let's wrap up the show here with the, what do you plan on doing with the new year? Anything on the horizon? Any goals?
Well, I definitely want to start really limiting my screen time. And I say that after I just bought blue light lenses, which I don't know if they're placebo or not. Like, it's just apparently there really isn't any science to support them. There's no real research to say that they work or they don't work. But I've met several people, and they said they loved them. They said, I noticed a difference, so I'll take their word for it. Who am I to accuse them of being liars? So it's just like whatever random anonymous article you can send me of like, no, maybe they don't work. It's like, honestly, I've met like dozens of people, and they all said that they noticed a difference. Now, again, maybe that's the placebo effect, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, other than like the cliche tried and failed, not tried and true, but tried and failed, like, oh, I'm going to eat better and exercise more, like, we all want to do that. I feel like everybody wants to do that in the beginning of the year, so time will tell. I mean, I'd like to flatten my stomach a little bit, but yeah, I'd like to limit my screen time, read more to my daughter. I mean, it's not like I don't read it at all, but, definitely read more books.
I don't know how you're reading to her when you don't know how to read.
Honestly, I just scream and hope for that. Maybe that's why she doesn't come around me anymore. What else? Other than, I'm sorry, and I guess this can foreshadow a future episode. I'm going to be doing a lot of praying because I really want life to start to go back to what our idea of normal was before. And I know that there's like this ideologically pure devil's advocate rebuttal on like normal before wasn't working. It's like, okay, like I want to be able to go out of my house without fucking killing someone indirectly because I breathed in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm definitely going to be doing a lot of hoping and praying. So yeah, what about you?
Well, I made a list of things for myself, stuff I want to do, in the coming year. Some stuff I want to do, some stuff I want to try, stuff I've been meaning to do for a while. I got a little bit of getting even to do.
First of all, for everybody who doesn't understand, that was like O.J. Simpson's first video when he joined Twitter.
I got a little bit of getting even to do. Like, he just snuck it in there so casually and just continued about with the rest of his sentence.
And then his new photo on Twitter, you can see in the background on the shelf in the cabinet that he has a MAGA hat, a Make America Great Again hat, and someone comments, "All right, that's it. OJ's canceled." And this guy goes, "Yeah, because that's the problem. That's what crossed it for you."
Yeah, but yeah, this year I got a little bit of getting even to do. But I made a list of things for myself, stuff I want to try to do. Like you mentioned, the eating better, working out, trying to flatten the stomach a bit. I'm going to try to do that, get myself in better shape. The past year or two, I've managed to shed a good bit of weight, so I'm hoping to keep that momentum up.
It's going to be a long time before I feel comfortable stepping into a public gym, though. Um,
Yeah,
but I will say, though, a few years when 2017, when I got into the best shape I had ever been in my adult life, um, I lost all that weight without stepping foot into a gym once. I just
yeah.
went for walks,
I
I
don't
went
like
for
I don't
jogs,
really
I went for
like
runs.
I don't like gyms really in general anymore. For multiple reasons, but luckily I got a dog who I walk twice a day, so that definitely helps. I roughhouse with him, which helps. Planning on getting maybe a treadmill in one of my spare bedrooms up here, so I'm sure that'll help. Um, so yeah.
That's
Um,
good. I like that.
some other stuff I'm hoping to do. I've always wanted to learn an instrument, so I'm debating between saxophone and drums. So gonna learn at least one of those this year, or try to start learning one of those this year. Um, and then I just made a list of things I want to do to my house here. I've had this house for 3 years as of this past August, and I've spent the last 2 years in the mindset of well, I'm going to be moving away. I'm going to be moving out of this house, moving out of the area soon. So why do anything to this house? And it's a shame because I got a nice house here. Not to pat myself on the back or toot my own horn, but I got a nice house here, and it'd be a shame to not use it to its full potential. So, I figure might as well stay for a little bit and actually make this house feel like a home instead of doing like what I've been doing, where I've just been in this mentality of not actually using my home's full potential because I think I'm going to leave soon.
No, I definitely think you're in a good place right now, and you should do more with it. But I
Yeah,
still think you're in a good place. Like you, I wouldn't be in a hurry if I was you. And I'm just gonna leave it at that, though.
yeah. I mean, I would still very much like to leave this area for a laundry list of reasons at some point. But it's when it happens. It'll happen when it happens, and it'll be on my terms.
I
But for,
respect that.
but for the time being, I got a nice house. I'm in a nice neighborhood. I got my dog who alternates between frustrating me and being the love of my life.
I mean, all right.
Yeah, but he's a good boy for the most part. But I got a good house. I got a good dog. I'm in a good neighborhood. I'm taken care of with my job. I'm in a comfortable place, so I might as well take advantage of it.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing I would like to add, I want to do more art, you know.
Yes, I was
So
hoping to get into that again because I used to draw like all the time, and then I just stopped several years ago. So I'd like to get back into that too.
for everybody listening on Puka Saucy, my accounts, I just posted a homage to Hot Rod. So I finally came out with another piece
It's good
since
shit.
September. I liked it. I like it. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I have fun with my style. So if you like it, awesome. And if you don't, you don't have to look at it.
Then you can go to hell.
But yeah, I definitely. Uh, some have said that I take a very long time doing certain pieces that I promise certain people. So yeah, I'm afraid you're all gonna have to start taking tickets, I guess.
Hey,
What?
I mean, it took Da Vinci like what 12 years to do the Mona Lisa.
Sure, and I, I can't think of a good comeback for that, so I'm just gonna leave it alone. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely want to do more art, but for now, I just posted a my ode to Hot Rod. Um, I don't know. Any other quick closing sentiments or thoughts you wanna start with, Donnie?
Well, since you mentioned art, we kind of we had this idea for a future episode talking about it. Uh, I think it'll be really fun. It'll probably end up being like our first like post-COVID episode where we're able to safely be in the same room. We're gonna do an episode where we follow a Bob Ross video or try to follow a Bob Ross video. Um,
hmm
I think there's like a million different ways that could end up being funny, but I'm looking forward to that episode. It's just such a wholesome episode idea.
I can't really think of like what excuse we can have for her happening to be there, but I just randomly want my mom to be there. I don't know why. Well, other than the fact that I want to be around my mom, but it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I kind of want my mom to be there for that for some reason.
I mean, if your mom's going to be there, I'm going to bring her like a bottle of wine for her to have for herself because that can only make things better.
She doesn't really drink, but she'll appreciate the sentiment.
Well, when she gets a look at our art, she'll start drinking. But other than that, I mean, I don't have anything else to add unless you do.
um, I mean, not to. Well, I'm just gonna go for it. I just want to take this moment
Are you
to.
about to propose to me?
No, I'm not. I'm sorry. I only do that once. But recently I lost a friend of mine. He was I mean, ultimately we were coworkers because let's be honest. When I was at the movie theater, I didn't have that much political power, but I had the responsibility. But no, he was a employee at the movie theater. I met him uh, 4 years ago this spring, and he sadly had to endure a brain tumor, and he then got COVID, and he passed away. But he was with his family, and they got to say goodbye to him. And I participated in a video montage of other people. It wasn't meant to be a goodbye at the time, but it felt as though I was saying goodbye. I guess I just knew it was coming for a while, but just to rest in peace to Austin. And I hope you are in a better place right now. So
Yeah.
that's all I have to say for tonight.
All right. Well, I really enjoyed sitting down and just shooting the shit with you, just riffing, going off the cuff. Um, it's fun to just sit down and just vent and reflect and just be like, what have you been up to lately?
No, I would dare say we deserve one of these every several episodes.
Yeah. So it was nice to just look back on the past year, even though it was a bit of a dumpster fire, but we still managed to get some good stuff out of it. And just here's hoping that the next year is just gonna be a vast improvement.
Amen.
So on that note, I hope you guys had a good night. I hope you guys had as much fun as we did. I hope you guys missed us as much as we missed you because it was a lot. But we'll definitely be back. We're gonna try to do the episode every Sunday night at 9 p.m. now. Try to keep on a routine airing schedule. So on that note, I'm Don John. You can follow me on Twitter at Don John Laughs. Be sure to follow the Fat Minute on Twitter at Fat Minute Radio if you don't already. If you missed this episode, it'll be up on pretty much every streaming service, hopefully tomorrow. Be sure to follow Blake at Puka Saucy on Twitter. He's going to have some more art coming out soon, I promise. On that note, you guys have a good night. Be safe.
Good night.